Now we can go because I want to make sure that I record this. I'm going to encourage you to take notes because I'm going to go pretty fast, just to make sure I can get as much in tonight. And then if we got questions, I want to save time for that as well. So welcome. I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree, your fibrodoctor.com, the author of Treating, Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. I've been in private practice for 34 years, recently retired in December from active patient care. For a number of years, I've owned a very large integrative medical practice on the campus of Brookwood Hospital that was staffed with medical doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We had a big IV clinic, and we used integrative medicine, so a very judicious use of prescription medications, but then relied a lot on natural therapies as well, mostly on natural therapies. In 2003, when the first edition of my book came out, the Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia Chronic Fatigue Syndrome book came out, I sold my medical practice and I've been practicing solo ever since. Eventually, my practice evolved. Whoa, got an avalanche there. Eventually, my practice evolved to where it's mostly telemedicine using functional medicine to work with fibromyalgia patients all over the world. So one of the common things that I see with fibromyalgia, besides the pain and the fatigue and the poor sleep and brain fog and fibroflares, I mean, all those things that unfortunately my patients have in common, one of the other common denominators for fibromyalgia, at least 70% of the time, is irritable bowel syndrome. And most every patient that I've worked with has something that's just not right with their gastrointestinal system, whether they're not absorbing their food or they're chronically constipated or they have loose bowel movements. These are signs of irritable bowel, but they may have a lot of reflux or bloating or gas or gastroesophageal reflux disease. They could have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or leaky gut. Most everybody has food allergies, and we'll try to, hopefully I can get to that. They may have yeast overgrowth, but the place to start, part of the jump start protocols that I developed some 20 something years ago when I started working fibromyalgia patients and then went on to, that's all I did. A big part of the fibromyalgia jumpstart protocol that I talk about, and those videos are on my website, yourfibrodoctor.com, is correcting your gut because your gut and your brain are connected. In fact, one of the most important substances, most important hormones that you need, for most of you can't even absorb it. You can't get it in your food. You're certainly not getting enough. And that's why you develop a deficiency in serotonin. Serotonin is a brain chemical. I talk a lot about it because if you have fibromyalgia, you're low in serotonin. That's just the way it is. And we can test for that, and we can see that, but we can do things like take a brain function questionnaire, which you can see on my website under patient resources and patient conditions. I think there are health conditions. You'll see a brain function questionnaire. You can take that little survey. It will tell you you're low in serotonin. The reason why I know that, well, specialized in fibromyalgia for 25 years, but because as your serotonin level goes low, your pain threshold goes low and pain becomes magnified. And that's really the big thing that has to change for you to feel better is you've got to get this low pain threshold. You've got to raise that. I'm sorry, you got to raise this pain threshold so you have less pain. Right now, between poor sleep, malabsorption, you're not absorbing your food, or maybe you have some bloating, gas, irritable bowel, you're not getting your nutrients absorbed, and that's creating deficiencies that then are driving problems with you not being able to get the nutrients you need to make the hormones that will make you feel better, or certainly help correct some of the underlying issues to help you feel better. And again, one of those is serotonin. And serotonin needs B vitamins, magnesium, and vitamin C to be absorbed and to synergistically, the 5-HTP needs these synergistic nutrients to make serotonin. But if you're not absorbing the foods that you're eating, or you have a genetic glitch, God just made you special, and you cannot convert the protein that you're eating into serotonin, then you're at a big disadvantage. Some of you, it's not the fact it's not the fact that you have a disconnect with the enzymes that would convert the amino acid and protein called tryptophan into 5-hydroxytryptophan when it's synergistically combined, there's the word combined, with the needed nutrients B1, B2, B3, B6, vitamin C, and magnesium. So you're really have a lot of obstacles, potentially have a lot of obstacles in the way that's going to prevent you to be able to really feel good again. And that's what we want, right? So in the Jumpstart protocols, I talk about using digestive enzymes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight, why I recommend them. And why is it that we want to really focus on the gut, the GI system with fibromyalgia? Well, a big part of that is what's going on in your intestinal tract is going to be radiated to your body. It's going to be broadcast out. So if you've got a lot of inflammation in your gut, or you have, so irritable bowel syndrome, you have a lot of inflammation, and you eat, and next thing you know, you have a dumping syndrome, you have to go to the bathroom right away, or you eat and you don't have a bowel movement for days. So you're really toxic, you're bloated, it may have water retention, swelling in your ankles and feet, just puffy skin because you're not having a bowel movement and getting rid of those toxins. I'm going to here share with you exactly what to do for these different cases of irritable bowel syndrome. But just know for fibromyalgia, and I've worked with thousands of patients over the years. The only way to overcome fibromyalgia is you got to get healthy. And I know that sounds so simple, so like I'm being facetious, but it's true. You can't drug your way out of fibromyalgia. There's too many symptoms. And if you're trying to cover up every symptom with a drug, before you know it, you're like most of all my patients that I've worked with, you're on half a dozen to a dozen drugs. And every drug has a potential side effect. And unfortunately, the common drugs used to treat fibromyalgia symptoms, they don't work, at least not long term. And that's what the surveys show. So I'm not want to step on anybody's toes. If you're taking prescription medications, that's fine. But you know that they're not giving you the long-term relief that you would like. And for many of you, you don't realize that many of the drugs, maybe more than one, the side effects that you're experiencing, you may not even know it, mirror the same problems that you're having with your fibromyalgia. So, if you're taking Lyrica and the potential side effects of Grillis, Lyrica, Neurontin, pregabalin, gabapentin, diffuse achy pain, nerve pain. Now it's supposed to help with nerve pain, right? But for some people, they have the opposite reaction. It can interfere with your sleep. Now, for a lot of people, it just knocks you out to the point the next day you have a little bit of brain fog, maybe some amnesia, don't remember, hard to carry on conversations, and short-term memory is compromised. But those medications can cause the very symptoms we would see in fibromyalgia: poor sleep, brain fog, low moods, water retention, weight gain. On these medications, you can gain 10 pounds easy. Most of it's water weight, but you certainly can start to gain that weight, and it makes you predisposed to type 2 diabetes, macular degeneration. All sort of things can start to show up. And we would say, oh, golly, you're having a fibro flare, you're not thinking clearly today, fibro fog, but maybe it's your medication. So you don't know that unless you look up all your prescription medications and see what are the potential side effects. Start asking yourself, could that be me? Could that medication be causing me to have itchy skin? Could that medication be causing me to have a lot of stomach issues? Could that medication be causing me to be gaining weight? I mean, if you don't know, ignorance is not bliss in this case. You need to know. But let's talk about what you can do to quickly and quickly within a couple of weeks reverse irritable bowel syndrome. So what I want to do is bring up some slides here. See if I've got them. Here we go. See if I could. There we go. That's a little better. And maybe there we go. Great. So let's talk about what are some of the things that you can do to help your fibromyalgia symptoms. Well, one, as I mentioned, I just want to have this slide on here to remind me about this, but you have more serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract than you do in your brain. So when you get nervous, you get butterflies in your stomach, right? But serotonin is so important because it helps to raise your pain threshold. It also is serotonin, this brain chemical, is also very calming, relaxing, helps. It's the happy hormone, so it helps with depression. It helps with mental clarity. But for fibro, the big thing is it raises your pain threshold. Now, the other thing, though, is you have serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract. So when you get low in serotonin, which everybody with fibromyalgia is, you are going to start having some issues processing your food. Serotonin controls the speed, the motility, the peristaltic wave as a food being in your stomach and then going in the small intestine and then passing on to the large intestine where it's voided out. Serotonin really is a big part of regulating that process. And when you're low in serotonin, which you are because you have fibromyalgia, you're going to see that more than likely you're going to have some irritable bowel problems. You're going to have some GI problems. Now, what you may not know though, is not only are you having bloating, gas, indigestion, whatever, and some bowel movement issues, but you also have a lot of inflammation because the serotonin has been compromised. And that creates all sorts of potential problems. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But I wanted to put this here to remind me to go over that. Now, how do you create serotonin? Where does it come from? So it should be a question that would be asked at the very end here. Serotonin does not come from Prozac or Celexa or Brintellix or Celexa or Prozac. I said Prozac, Effects or Cymbalta. There'll be a new one next week. No, it comes from our diet. So when you eat protein foods, one of those proteins, I'm sorry, when you eat protein foods has amino acids in there. So of these 20 amino acids, there are some that are essential that the body cannot make. So when you eat protein, you have to get it from the protein that you eat because your body can't make it. Some amino acids can be made from the foods that you eat, but in the case of serotonin, you cannot make it yourself. You have to get it from an essential, meaning you have to get it from your diet, an essential amino acid called tryptophan. Now, tryptophan, when you take in protein, that tryptophan, when it's combined with certain B vitamins, as I mentioned, vitamin C and magnesium, it turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan. Some people have a disconnect. They're not getting enough. They're nutritionally deficient in one or more of the B vitamins or magnesium, which is very common unless you're taking it. So I wanted to bring this up because probably most of you have either been on an antidepressant or been recommended an antidepressant, and no one has an antidepressant deficiency. You could have a tryptophan, you could have a 5-HTP, you could have a magnesium, a B1, B2, 3, B6 deficiency, and you probably do from having a chronic illness that has just beat you down over the years, or maybe you're taking prescription medications that are creating that, or you have a thing called leaky gut we're going to talk about here in just a minute that's creating these deficiencies. But just know that the way that you make this serotonin is with 5-hydroxytryptophan. When it's combined with the right synergistic vitamins like the fibro formula, that's where it comes from. And when you do that, you're going to see not only does it start to help your gut health, but you're going to see that it starts to help your overall fibro pain by raising your pain threshold. So if we look at just the anatomy of how this all happens, you start to eat, right? And then it goes down your esophagus, goes down into your stomach, and you can just see here. So in your mouth, you have these salivary glands that even smelling food, I think I have a slide on here. I can't remember, I hadn't done this presentation in a while. But even when you smell food, just the smell of food, you'll start to get a release of saliva in here, which its job is really mainly to break down starches. That's the main thing. But it then triggers the rest of the body to get ready for the food that's supposedly coming. Now, if you're one of these individuals that just, eats little bitty things all day long, and we're all guilty of that. So be candid to that. I've been in that space before. It can be nervous eating. It can be whatever it is. But if you're a snacker or you're just eating a lot of processed foods, you're sending this message to the body. You're chewing gum or you're eating a few chips. You're sending this message to the body, hey, we got all this food stuff coming. You need to be ready. And then they get a little trickle. You do that over and over again, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're likely to become deficient in certain enzymes, certain chemicals that you need to digest your food. So let's look at that. So we look at, here's other part here. You can see, the gallbladder is interacting with the liver. And for those of you who have a fatty liver, from taking in too many carbohydrates, gaining a little bit too much weight for your body, that can create a lot of problems. And for those of you that had your gallbladder removed, you need to realize that the gallbladder, one of the main things that it's doing, releasing that bile, is to break down fat. And fat is healthy. You're told fat's not healthy. If it's healthy fat, it's healthy. So essential fatty acids, we'll talk about that too a little bit tonight here in a minute when we talk about what's a healthy diet. If you've had your gallbladder removed, then you definitely need to be taking digestive enzymes. If you have a fatty liver, you definitely need to be taking digestive enzymes. And I also would recommend you take the liver detox formula that's in the store to help to start to reverse that fatty liver process. Let me just get off here. What is the four main jobs of your stomach? Well, number one is to break down proteins for digestion. So protein molecules to get those amino acids. Amino acids, let me just share this so I don't forget. Amino acids are what make your hormones. So one of the amino acids, L-tyrosine, makes up thyroid hormones. So T4 is L-tyrosine and iodine, and T3 is L-tyrosine and iodine. These amino acids also make your happy hormones. They make your brain chemicals. So they help you make these amino acids turn into serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine, turn into adrenaline that you need for energy, turn into gamma aminobutyric acid, which is very calming, very relaxing. You need these amino acids. These are building blocks for certain chemical reactions, hormones, and physiological reactions that the body needs to work at optimal levels. So the stomach has four main jobs: break down proteins for digestion, activate the digestive enzyme pepsin. Very important, because if it's not activated, you're not going to absorb and utilize the protein that you're eating. And I'll show that here in just a minute. It's supposed to alert the pancreas to release pancreatic enzymes, and it prevents the growth of bacteria, yeast, or other possible pathogens. So your stomach is very acidic, right? Some of you have reflux, some of you have gastroesophageal reflux disease. I'm sorry, gastroesophageal reflux disease, or heartburn. Maybe when you eat, you just have heartburn all the time. That stomach acid is there for a reason. It's the only place in your body that's acidic. The rest of the body is alkaline. The stomach acid is supposed to stay in the stomach because it's not natural to get out of there. And that's why when it leaks up into the esophagus, you get some burning pain because it is so acidic. But normally that stomach acid is in your stomach, and its job is to protect you from foreign invaders. When you're eating food, and taking food and beverages, some of those uh, food products are going to have bacteria, they're going to have yeast, they're going to have toxins in there that you may or may not know about, but they're going to have bacteria. And some of that bacteria is going to be bad. And the stomach, one of the main things this helps to do is destroy that bad bacteria, destroy the yeast or the fungus that's trying to get into your system, to help to break down some of the toxins that you may ingest you didn't even know, preservatives and other things. So the digestive enzymes are really important. I'm sorry, the stomach acid is crucial for your immune system. It's the first defense of your immune system. Very important. So I talked about this earlier, just smelling food. It starts to release amylase and these other um, enzymes in your oral cavity in your mouth to start to break down, to be ready to break down carbohydrates, in particular starches. As I mentioned earlier, fats, they get digested. They're helped digested by the gallbladder and the bile from the liver. And then digestive enzymes, pancreatic digestive enzymes, which are really important. And you'll see how this comes together here in just a minute. Pancreatic digestive enzymes, what are those? Well, they're made up of these enzymes: pepsin, which breaks down protein, trypsin, and chymotrypsin. All three of these help to break down protein and to some degree carbohydrates and fat. Big thing they do is break down the protein, so you get all those amino acids that you need. What is hypochlorhydria? It's low stomach acid. So if you ever heard hypo, which means low, chlorhydria acid. And what happens here is this is where you're not digesting your protein. Your food is not being digested because you don't have the acid to bring it down. You need stomach acid to break down, well, actually to trigger the pancreas to release enzymes to then break down the protein, and then it releases the amino acids for you to use. If you don't have stomach acid, you cannot make B12. Interesting, huh? So, and this is something I used to see so much more than because I would catch it now, it kind of baffle me, but I'd see so many people that had these brain fog, and I would just associate that with fibromyalgia early on. Or they had what I would think of as pre-senile dementia. They were told that. And what I would come to find out is they have such a low stomach acid, they can't make B12 from the foods that they eat. You need calcium. When you take, I'll say, let me wait till I get to that part. You can't absorb calcium if you don't have stomach acid. Can't make B12 because you can't get the intrinsic factor, and you can't absorb calcium, magnesium, and certain other minerals, which quickly can cause all sorts of problems. Magnesium's in 300 bodily processes, so when it gets low, and it's notorious low in most people anyway, but especially so in fibromyalgia. Every time you get under stress, real or imagined, your body needs magnesium to drive these 300 different processes to help with uh, that mentality or what your body's reacting to. And with the deficiency of magnesium, everything starts to suffer down the line because it's a domino effect. Well, if you don't have stomach acid, but because of that, then you start to see you don't digest your food, and that can set up leaky gut. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the big one, you start to see reflux. So you start to see heartburn. But it can be caused from aging and eating processed foods, as I mentioned earlier. Achlorhydria, you're just eating candy and stuff in the body. They're releasing these enzymes that they don't need to be. And so you can deplete those over the years. If you become deficient in B12, B vitamins, magnesium, and zinc deficiencies, these can all create low stomach acid, um, chronic stress. Oh my goodness, who with fibromyalgia didn't have stress, right? So this is probably the number one thing, right? Is the stress that brought on the fibromyalgia was also a trigger that started depleting your ability to absorb the nutrients in the foods that you're eating. So we look at, here's uh, we'll go back. So let me see if I can go back here real quick. There. Oh, I don't have a slide on it. Let me see if I got this slide. I'm out of order. I'm sorry. Again, thought I had this set up right. I don't. I don't think I see that slide. That's okay. So let me start. Let me do it this way. So real quick, and I'll come off of here. So the question probably is, if I have heartburn or reflux or gastroesophageal reflux disease, do I need to be taking an antacid? I mean, that's what most doctors will tell you, right? Most doctors will tell you if you're getting burning, that you've got too much stomach acid. But is that really the case? No, it's not. And let me share with you. Because when you eat, you start to chew up this food stuff, right? And then the enzymes are released here to start break that down, and that food stuff goes down your throat, right? And there's a little trap door there that's sitting closed. It's closed. But when that food comes down, part of the digestive system is going to trigger that door to open so that the food here can go down your throat, go down your esophagus into the stomach. Now, what causes that trap door to open? Stomach acid. So the stomach, when you smell food, enzymes are released, getting ready to break down starches or carbohydrates. It's wet, it's waiting, stomach acid's being released. You're chewing a piece of gum. No wonder you're eventually gonna, you're doing that all day long. It's no wonder eventually you're probably gonna have some issues with low stomach acid. There's none. When the food hits the stomach, then what's supposed to happen is the stomach acid that's been released then causes the trapdoor esophageal reflux, esophageal sphincter to close to prevent that food stuff from going back up into your esophagus. Okay, it's not that you have too much stomach acid, believe it or not, it's that you don't have enough. I know, crazy, right? Let's see if I can go back to where we were. So maybe I might have to do this. Okay, let's share again. Let's go back to that. So let me show you here on this slide presentation. So again, hypochlorhydria, low stomach acid. Are antacids the answer? No, they're not. Because as I've showed, I was just trying to share with you here just a minute ago, the esophageal sphincter is stimulated to close by the release of stomach acid. So if you're a typical person who has eaten a sad American diet, the standard American diet, right? We all have. That's how I grew up. Pretty soon you deplete your digestive enzymes. I think typically I see that by that. Sometimes someone gets in their 30s, they're typically have really depleted their stomach acid and their digestive enzymes. So now it's not that you have too much stomach acid, it's that when you eat and the food stuff comes down, the trap door opens, the food drops to your stomach, and the stomach acid is supposed to start to digest the food, break it down, and trigger the pancreas to release enzymes. But you don't have any stomach acid there. It's not enough stomach acid. So that doesn't happen. What does happen is just enough stomach acid to leak back up into your esophagus and create the pain that you associate with heartburn. Once you start to use digestive enzymes, you'll see this goes away. Okay. Let's look at some more visuals here. What you need to realize is that you don't have too much stomach acid, you don't have enough. That's really what we see. And the problem with antacids is, number one, if you're taking something like Tums over the counter, you need to realize that Tums, so it tells you that it has calcium in it to help you absorb, to get more calcium. It's the antacid for osteoporosis, to help with bone loss. But the problem is, I just mentioned earlier, as I shared with you, is if you have no stomach acid, you cannot absorb calcium. So let's look at some of the things that happen because you don't have stomach acid. You're 15 to 800 times more likely to have intestinal infections. Now, why is that? Remember, I shared that the stomach acid, one of the main things is to destroy any foreign invaders that could give us problems, bad bacteria, yeast, these viruses, toxins that come into our bodies through the foods and the beverages that we drink. You have an increased risk of small bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. Increased risk of C. diff, and that's a nasty one. 120 to 160% increased risk of pneumonia, 125% increase in bone fractures. That is common, so common between low stomach acid, not absorbing the calcium, maybe taking medications that prevent other nutrients from being absorbed, having GI problems where you're, leaky gut. You're not getting the calcium that you need. And not only calcium, because a lot of you are probably taking calcium, but you also need K2 and you need biotin and you need the synergistic vitamins that go with that, B vitamins and zinc. If you're not getting all of that, then you could be at risk. And some of you probably have already been told you have low bone mass, so you're either osteopenic, osteopenia, or you're in full-blown osteoporosis. You start to change that, once you start to work on your gut. Stomach cancer is, a nasty thing, and that is also increased risk once you have low stomach acid. One of the things you can do to really help with stomach acid, your body's ability to have stomach acid, is just slow down. I mean, I see, and I'm guilty, so I need to own that. I get busy, and next thing you know, I'm eating 1,000 miles an hour or something, or racing through a meal to get to the next appointment or whatever it is. But what I want to encourage you to do is really just take a moment and bless your food. I mean, that's probably how all of us grew up. I know that's how I grew up. Didn't think much about it, unfortunately, but now I really certainly am grateful, and practice gratitude, try to anyway. But take a moment and just calm yourself down, and slow down when you eat. Just really slow down. Make sure you're in a calm place. One thing that I think really is a catalyst for poor digestion absorption, and that is noise. You get to where you can't even go to a restaurant now, and they don't have some kind of loud music on or a TV playing with some ball game or some event that most of the time you don't even care about, right? This noise pollution. So get in a quiet place when you have your meal if you can, or at least have some really soothing, calming music. You don't want to be listening to AC/DC or something, something that's just way out there. But these are digestive enzymes. So what they do is they help to break down protein, fat, and carbohydrates. This is part of the Jumpstart protocol. This is one of the 4 products that's in the Jumpstart. And what they're designed to do is to help you to digest your food. I mean, that's what they do. So when you don't have stomach acid, if it's not being released, it doesn't trigger the pancreas. Remember the pancreas? Let's go back up and look at a visual where you can see it, so you'll know where it is. Okay. So you see the pancreas sits there right by the stomach. And when the food stuff goes into the stomach, what that stomach acid should do, when it's released, it triggers sodium bicarbonate to be released from the pancreas and pancreatic digestive enzymes to be released to break down protein and fat. If that is not the case, then you're not absorbing your protein and you're not getting those amino acids that make these hormones that we need for you to feel good. And I'll test everybody's pulse here in a minute in the question and answer section to make sure that that's understood. This is where you start to heal fibromyalgia. And you don't heal fibromyalgia. You don't have a drug deficiency. You probably have some type of stomach acid deficiency or tryptophan deficiency or magnesium deficiency. And these things have developed over the years. And you have to address those, because if you don't, your body has such high hurdles to get over to be able to help you in your, to reverse these symptoms associated with fibromyalgia. The gut is the window to your life. And you think about that. How do you come in contact with the rest of the world? Well, certainly through vision, right? Things that we hear, things that we come in, tactile sensation, things we put on our skin that are absorbed and can be bad for us, right? So it can be some toxins that we put on our skin. But the other way is things we breathe in, so environmental things. But the other way we experience our outside world is taking in things that we ingest. Sometimes they're good. Hopefully, most of the time they're good. But even the good things may have some bad bacteria or viruses, other things in there that have to be dealt with. But it just makes sense that you pay attention to your ability not only to be able to process these foods and get the nutrients out of them, but also that the fact that you want to be conscious of what you're eating, because we are what we eat. I mean, that is true. We've heard that, right? But you're also what you absorb. And if you're not absorbing, you can be eating super healthy, but if you're not absorbing it and getting the amino acids out of those proteins because don't have the digestive enzymes, you're going to be at a disadvantage of what I just shared. So let's go for a little further and let's look at so digestive enzymes, and this again part of the jump start. What is a healthy? What's healthy? I'll just throw this up here. These are some healthy foods right here that have a lot of really, especially the leafy greens, which really help your liver incredibly. And also, you need to realize that to build bone, one of the best things you can do is to eat green leafy vegetables. That's probably just as important, not more so than calcium. If you're interested in knowing about that, you can go and look at an article I wrote for a publication several years ago when I was writing for peer review journals. But you can see the article I wrote, and you go to yourfibrodoctor.com, look under patient resources, then click under health conditions, and you'll see an article that I wrote about osteoporosis. It's worth the 5-minute read, especially if you have any concern about having bone loss or you've been told you have bone loss. Now, berries are probably one of the most antioxidant-rich foods out there. They're superfoods, I think, and putting those in your diet, preferably, you really need to be aware that most berries are highly treated with pesticides and fungicides, and they're very toxic. So look for organic food when you can, or especially berries. I mean, some food, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in that, you can Google the Clean 15. So I'll tell you what foods, what veggies and fruits you don't have to be so worried about them being organic, mainly ones that have a lot of skin on them, because you can peel the skin off. But it also lists the toxic 5, the deadly 12, or the toxic 12, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But this environmental group, you can Google that and it'll pop up and it'll show you that. But eating, to eat healthy, you really want to eat around when you go to the grocery store, you want to shop around the aisles, not in the middle with all the packaged foods and processed foods and preservatives. You want to, go to the produce section and you get some fruits and you get some vegetables, and then you go to the animal protein section and you get if you're eating animal protein, which I think most people do better eating animal protein. Certainly, vegans, whether it's a moral issue or a health issue, you have to decide that for yourself. But after you go to, you stock up on your veggies and your fruits, and then you go to and you get your preferably grass-fed beef, because grass-fed beef has more omega-3s, and you'll see here in a minute of why grass-fed is so important. But shop around. What you should be looking for is a real food. What's a real food? Well, a real food is something that if you put it out on the ledge outside your house, it's going to disappear. Some animal is going to come get it and eat it. Or it's going to disintegrate because it doesn't have preservatives in it. It's just something when you pick up and really it shouldn't come out of a bag, but if you pick up a bag and the ingredients are 15 lines deep, that's not a natural food. That's been processed. Try to eat as clean and as whole foods as you can. You want to steer clear from seed oils. I have a slide about that here in a minute, make it a little easier. But seed oils can create inflammation, so you want to stick with coconut oil, cold pressed virgin coconut oil, organic coconut oil. Excuse me one second. Okay. And then expeller press, cold press olive oil. Those are things that you really want to use to cook with. You want to steer clear of soy and soybean oil and safflower, corn oil, canola, these things. Wild caught seafood, super healthy. Farm raised seafood, not healthy. What's the difference? Well, wild seafood is raised in an environment where they're eating a lot of healthy things that particular fish eats, okay? But if you're farm raised, they're raised on grain. We're eating way too many grains, way too many grains. Now, here in a moment, I'll have a slide that will really make that very easy because you'll see the visual on it. But most people are eating a lot of toxic foods that have trans fats and cooked with margarine or vegetable oils, and they're creating a lot of inflammation that they don't need. They already have plenty of inflammation, especially if you have fibromyalgia. You want to replace these fats, these cooking oils, whether it's in the packaging that you see. If you look down, like in your mayonnaise and your ketchup, it's going to say it has soybean oil, salad dressing, soybean oil. We're just loaded with these different oils and omega-6, which causes inflammation. Sunflower oil, corn, safflower, cottonseed, soybean. These are all things that can create inflammation. And eating a diet like this over a period of time can create a thing called leaky gut. Now, what is leaky gut? Well, leaky gut is a condition where the food that normally would stay intact in your digestive system leaks across and gets into the rest of the body. So let me kind of give you a visual about this. So in your house or your apartment, when you have a plumbing system, right? And when you go and you sit on the john, sit on the toilet and use the bathroom and you flush, that waste material, that bowel movement and the waste, passes through your house, but it's contained in the plumbing, right? And then it goes out to somewhere we don't want to know, to the sewer, to whatever it is, and you don't see it again. It doesn't give you any problem. Now, when you got a leak, right? When you got a problem, your sewer's backed up and it's leaking everywhere, or you've got a busted pipe in your house somewhere and it's leaking, that's leaky gut. That's what leaky gut is. So normally when you eat, the good food, when you eat, and it's called the food stuff's coming down into your stomach, it's broken down, it's passed on into the small intestine and then into the large intestine. Normally, the nutrients, the good things, is used by the body. It passes over this membrane here. I hope you can see my arrow. Maybe this will help. So if you see here, normally in your intestinal tract, you have these cells, epithelial cells. They're one layer deep. So not very deep, right? You don't have a big buffer. here. And normally, though, what we see, this would be a healthy right here, and the food is kept in check. And then the good stuff is absorbed and the bad stuff goes out into the colon and voided out. But when you develop leaky gut from a poor diet or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or taking steroids or certain medications that can create this, long-term stress can do this, depleted serotonin can do this. There's different things that can create leaky gut. But the big one is just really poor diet. And now what you see is instead of these toxins being contained, they actually leak across into the rest of the body. So it's literally like mixing poo-poo in your body. Yicky, right? Yick. Ah. So your body knows what to do with the tryptophan protein. It's gonna, when you eat some turkey, um, and then that is being digested. Normally, the tryptophan, the amino acid, is taken out of there, and your body uses that to help you make serotonin and other chemicals, other things. But if you've got leaky gut, that doesn't happen, and you create this inflammation. When the food particles leak across, your body doesn't know what to do with these turkey molecules. That's not what it's. That turkey food stuff is supposed to pass on through your intestinal tract. Good stuff absorbed, the bad stuff is eliminated. But when it breaks across, when it goes across and gets to the rest of the body has an allergic reaction. And it starts to release certain chemicals like bradykinins and kinins that trigger inflammation in your body that you can feel anywhere. You can feel it in your nervous system. You feel it in your nerves. You can feel it in your muscles. You can feel it in your joints. You can feel it in your soft tissue. And the pain that you're experiencing, the inflammation, is coming from your gut. That's what you got to fix. You got to clean that up. You got to get this where everything's leaking across to this. Okay, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. So this is a normal gut, and there's a leaky gut. Most people with a chronic disease, illness, are going to have leaky gut, and so many people have leaky gut. One of the things that really drives food allergies, if you're an individual who has a lot of food allergies, or you're finding that you're more sensitive to foods every year, there's more and more foods you just can't eat. A lot of times that comes from leaky gut. How many of you have yeast overgrowth? So yeast overgrowth, everybody has yeast in your intestinal tract. But normally the good bacteria keeps the yeast and the bad bacteria in check. When you take antibiotics and you kill the bad bacteria, you also kill the good bacteria. When you kill the good bacteria, now the yeast, which is normally kept in check, crowded down, and the bad bacteria, which is kept in check, because you've taken something to kill both the good and the bad bacteria. Now what we see is we have an overgrowth of yeast. And normally yeast doesn't give you any problem, but you can get under a lot of stress and develop leaky gut. And now the yeast, these yeast start to kind of get a picture like an octopus. So they have tentacles and they attach to the lining of the intestinal tract and they punch holes in there. And now that's another source of leaky gut. So one of the things I really encourage everyone to do is just take a good probiotic. You don't have to do it every day. If you hadn't taken one in a while or you never taken one, then I'd recommend you take a probiotic, about 20 billion count. So you'll take 20 billion CFU. You'll see that on the label. You can get it anywhere. We have some good ones in the Fibro store, yourfibrostore.com, but you can get them anywhere. And you want to take them, 20 billion. That's what you want to look for. Preferably take them on an empty stomach because stomach acid can destroy. When the stomach acid is released, it can destroy the good bacteria right then, right? So take it on an empty stomach, let it pass on into the small intestine so it won't be destroyed. You can also take enteric-coated probiotics. So if it says stomach acid protected or acid protected or enteric-coated, that means it's going to get to where it needs to be and won't be destroyed in the stomach. But everybody should be taking a probiotic. In the beginning, I'd say you take it for a couple of months, and then if you're one of those individuals that doesn't like to take a lot of supplements, or you're taking a bunch, you want to reduce what you're taking, then go to take it a week on, a week off, week on, week off. But you need to build up this good bacteria. That's your microbiome. which is communicating with your body. The microbiome, these bacteria have their own little brains, their own little communication system, and they're communicating with the rest of the body. How you treat your intestinal tract, the foods that you put into your intestinal tract play a role in how you feel, how you think, if you can lose weight, how you sleep. All these things are affected by what you eat. We just think of it as um, it's this big disconnect. It's not. You really are what you eat, but you're also what you absorb. And that's why I really recommend you take digestive enzymes. And you want to take pancreatic digestive enzymes to make sure you're breaking down these food and getting those amino acids, which turn into your hormones. Really important. Again, when you eat, you want to be relaxed. You want to be mindful, be appreciative, be grateful. A lot of people that don't have any food, they're starving around the world. Try just some deep breathing. I don't recommend you eat a lot. I don't recommend you drink a lot of fluids because that will that will dilute your stomach acid. So don't drink a lot when you're eating. And also close to meals, don't take in a lot of caffeine either, especially tea, black tea, because the tannins in black tea can bind to certain B vitamins and keep you from absorbing them. So and here in the South, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and I see people all the time, drinking tea, most times sweet tea here in the South, right? And I just think, wow, that's a double whammy. I mean, tea's fine. It's an antioxidant. Green tea is really a big time antioxidant. Black tea, not so much, but it's okay. But do it within reason. So again, these are just what people have said, but typically what you'll see, so the digestive enzyme plays a big role, digestive enzymes in your health, fibromyalgia health, and they make up part of what we call the Fibromyalgia Jumpstart package, which are these four products here. The new Fibro formula is a special multivitamin with high doses, sometimes 500 to 1,000 times stronger than the RDA, the recommended disease allowance, what I call it, just enough to keep you from getting scurvy, what you get in a Centrum Silver or something. It's about what's in here is about 1,000 times stronger because what I found is we have to saturate the cells with these B vitamins and minerals. So in here, or it doesn't work because everybody's different. We're as different on the inside as we're on the outside. So one person needs 400 milligrams of magnesium, and before they have a bowel movement, we're going to talk about that. Another person takes 400 milligrams and they're in the bathroom all day. We're different. So you want to saturate your cells. These are water soluble. You're going to get rid of them. Even the fat soluble vitamins that are in here, like K2 and vitamin D3. So vitamin D3 is in here. There's 4,000 IUs daily dose. There's high doses of magnesium in here, malic acid. All the amino acids are in here. I've already talked about amino acids, the importance. That's why they're in the Fibro formula. And then there's synergistic things in there to help when you take the 5-HTP to make serotonin, to make that work. The adrenal cortex is to help with energy, reduce pain, inflammation, and to help you avoid fibro flares. And you can watch the videos to learn more about that, but I want to just have that on there so you can see when I talk about the Fibro formula. So let's talk about irritable bowel. And I probably could just take the slide off here. So let me, let's just do this here. Okay, let's do that. There we go. So let's talk about irritable bowel. Here are the protocols. This you want to write down. I've already said if you've got a GI problem, if you got reflux, GERD, if you have dumping syndrome where you eat and you have to run to the bathroom, that's because your intestinal tract has so much inflammation and it can't even handle any food. The way you start to reverse that is a digestive enzyme. That's where you start. Everybody should be taking a digestive enzyme, I think. So with irritable bowel, we have 3 different forms of irritable bowel. Irritable bowel A, so IBS-A, irritable bowel syndrome A, where you alternate going back and forth between constipation and loose bowel movements, right? Irritable bowel D, where it's just diarrhea. You just have loose bowel movements. And irritable bowel C, where you're constipated all the time. So let's start with irritable bowel A, where you go back and forth. So with irritable bowel A, the first place you want to start with a digestive enzyme. When you eat, you want to take a digestive enzymes. The digestive enzymes that I created are 8 times, or called 8X. They're incredibly powerful. So instead of having to take 3 or 4 of them, because there's so many other things that I recommend my patients take, including in the Jumpstart pack, I wanted to make sure you took 1 tablet, that's it. It used to be you'd take 4 or 5 of these things. That's while you're trying to eat dinner, right? It's 1 a day. I mean, sorry, 1 with each meal. So as you start to eat a regular meal, you want to take the digestive enzyme. I recommend you be on a probiotic at least periodically. Okay, that's going to help to get that microbiome, so it can help you with breaking down your food. So part of what the good bacteria does is it helps you with digestion. It helps you with that process. It helps you to digest. It also helps you to synergistically create or combine when certain nutrients come together. The bacteria then make these synergistic arrangements turn into certain chemicals that we need. So the bacteria in your gut is not just sitting there; it's there for a purpose, and it has an intelligence. It's communicating with your brain and the rest of the body. So digestive enzyme, probiotic. The next thing you want to be taking is a good multivitamin. Hopefully you're taking the Fibro formula. If you have fibromyalgia, that's the best thing on the market. Not only is a multivitamin, high dose multivitamin, so actually you can tell a difference here on something, but it has all the amino acids. It has all the other things in there, CoQ10's in there, malic acid's in there, antioxidants in there. They're in there for a reason. And when you want to make sure you're taking a good multivitamin, but in particular, you want to make sure you're taking magnesium. Magnesium is a natural muscle relaxer. It relaxes things. It also relaxes tight colons. So if you're one of these individuals you have constipation all the time, that magnesium, once you put that in your daily routine, you should see that your bowel movements start to normalize. Now, if you're going back and forth between loose and constipated, what happens if you're having loose bowel movements all the time? Well, once you add the digestive enzyme, the probiotic, that may take care of it. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it does not. The key ingredient, a key thing, is 5-HTP. So that's part of the jumpstart, right? So the 5-HTP, why do I say that? I thought 5-HTP is to make serotonin and to help to raise your pain threshold so you have less pain. 5-HTP also increases your natural sleep hormone melatonin. When you take it at bedtime, it helps with your sleep, helps with mental clarity, helps with your moods. But 5-HTP, remember, I told you that when it's combined and makes serotonin with the right synergistic vitamins and minerals, it makes serotonin, and serotonin controls how fast or slow food moves through your intestinal tract. So if you're one of these individuals that's having loose bowel movements all the time, or you have dumping syndrome, once you start taking 5-HTP, 300 milligrams a day in divided doses or all at bedtime, look on the Jumpstart videos or order the Jumpstart, and those videos will come with it. It'll tell you how to do that. But 5-HTP is part of my IBS protocol. If you'll do the digestive enzyme, a good multivitamin, preferably plenty of magnesium, 5-HTP, what you're going to start to see is within a short period of time, your IBS starts to improve. It typically goes away. I know for those of you who've had IBS for years and you've done colon cleanses and you've done parasite things and all the stuff that people are recommended out there, which I disagree with, and you still have it and you're thinking, Dr. Murphree, you're a nut. It's 25 years, I can tell you, of this happening. Now, let's take some scenarios. So let's say you've got IBS-D, where you just have loose bowel movements all the time. So typically, when you take the digestive enzyme, 5-HTP, good multivitamin like the Fibro formula is what I'd recommend. What you'll see is that oftentimes will be all you'll need to do, especially if you're taking a probiotic. But let's say you're taking the 5-HTP, the Fibro formula, digestive enzyme, taking a probiotic, and you still have loose bowel movements. What's going on? Could that be a parasite? Could it be a bad bacteria? Could it be something? Yeah, it could be. But before you go to your gastroenterologist, who oftentimes are not very helpful. I mean, when they tell you got spastic colon or irritable bowel syndrome, what does that even mean? That's like fibromyalgia. It's just a syndrome. It's a name given to a group of symptoms. Irritable bowel syndrome is just a name. That's all it is. And they tell you, yeah, you got irritable bowel. Well, what do I do with that? What you gonna do? How you gonna help me? Well, here's some Bentyl or some um, can't think of the name, so I hadn't seen it in a while because it can create swelling of your colon and it bursts. I can't think of the name of that medication. But anyway, um, try the digestive enzyme 5-HTP, fibroformia, probiotic. If you continue to have a loose bowel movement, look and see, are you taking too much magnesium? So sometimes that happens. If you're one of these individuals, you're taking a hair, skin, and nail formula, you're taking a mineral complex, maybe you're taking a multivitamin, the fibroformia, whatever it is, and you're having loose bowel movements, look and see how much magnesium you're taking and reduce your dose of magnesium to see if that makes a difference. The other thing you can do that will oftentimes turn that around is then add S-Boulardi. S-Boulardi. Let me try to get close on the spelling. You can write it down. S period, because it's Saccharomyces, but S is easier. S period, B-O, B-O or B-U, B-O-U-L-A-R-D-I-I. I'm close. Put that in. You can get that anywhere. We have that on the store, but you can get that anywhere. And what you want to do with S. pylori, it's not a probiotic. Sometimes people think it's called a probiotic, but it's not a probiotic. It's actually a yeast. It's a good yeast. It's a prebiotic. What's a prebiotic? Well, probiotic, what's a probiotic? Probiotic is good bacteria that you need. A prebiotic is what happens before you get a probiotic. It's the fuel for the bacteria. So when you add this S. boulardii, now you just see this growth of this good bacteria, and that starts to crowd down the bad bacteria and helps to reduce the inflammation that's going on in your gut. And within a short period of time, what you should see, no more diarrhea. This is how it works. When I get my patients on the jump start, those 4 products, typically irritable bowel goes away in 2 weeks. So don't discount. I mean, it does. And then we don't usually have to talk about irritable bowel after that. We've fixed that. We're talking about fibro flares, and we're talking about fibro fog, and we're talking about how to dramatically increase their energy or fix their thyroid, whatever. But typically within 2 weeks on the fibroform, the irritable bowel goes away. Now, if you have irritable bowel and you start taking those, but you're still constipated, increase your magnesium. So add an additional 250 milligrams of magnesium citrate, chelate, or glycinate. Those are the most absorbable forms, okay? But add some additional magnesium every day. So 250, if you don't have a normal bowel movement next day, go up another 250. Don't have normal bowel next week, go up. Now, I have some patients taking well over 1,000 milligrams of magnesium in combination with the fibroformula. In the fibroformula, there's 600 milligrams, 680 milligrams. But if you're constipated, keep adding magnesium until you have a normal bowel movement. Then, if you get a loose bowel movement, just reduce your dose of magnesium. That's what you need to do. Now, some of you need more fiber, and you're told that, and that's certainly something that you can add. You definitely want to get a lot of fiber. That's why eating healthy oftentimes will dramatically improve IBS, because you're getting good nutrients in there, antioxidants and fibers. But if you will do digestive enzyme, 5-HTP, fibro formula if you have fibro, good multivitamin if you don't, and what was the other one? Let's see, digestive enzyme, 5-HTP, good multivitamin, probiotic if you need it, extra magnesium if you stay constipated, and S. pylori if you stay with loose bowel movements. If you do this, try it. I'm telling you, it works. It works, but you have to take the digestive enzyme. You have to take these things. And the other thing I really encourage you to do, even though I have patients that don't do this, at least not initially, and they still see improvement, clean your diet up. Eat a whole foods diet. Eat food that has not been processed. I thought I had a slide here about those seed oils, but let me go. I'm gonna make sure I got time, so I can't go into more detail about some of that. Leaky gut. Let me share with you, how do you correct leaky gut? I need to do that real quick. This is real quick. So leaky gut, one of the things that these cells, the epithelial cells that line the intestinal tract, they need a lot of amino acid. Okay, another amino acid. They need an amino acid called glutamine, L-glutamine. That's the fuel for these cells to repair themselves. You have a new stomach lining every 5 days. The actual surface cells that contact food are renewed every few minutes. I mean, every day they're renewed. Um, so how do you help a leaky gut? Is you want to get those tight junctions. First of all, you give it the fuel, that's the glutamine. You give it special fiber, so we bulk up what's in your intestinal tract to help to prop up these epithelial cells. And there's a couple other things in there. A special form of glucosamine, probably most people have heard of glucosamine, which is like a wiring system for these epithelial. It just wires them together to keep them intact. But there's all kind of different leaky gut formulas out there. We have one that's called simply leaky gut formula. And what you do is you take 6 capsules a day. You normally would take 3,000 milligrams of L-glutamine and then these other synergistic products, hopefully in combination. But if you're just taking the L-glutamine, that's fine too. But you need to be getting about 3,000 milligrams or 3 grams of L-glutamine a day, preferably 6. So you could do it in divided doses. You can do 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. You want to really clean your diet up, avoid non-steroidal anti-inflammatories as much as you can, because that can create leaky gut issues. If you have yeast overgrowth, that's something that's going to need to be dealt with. You'll need to work with a practitioner. You certainly can see leaky gut protocols on my website on how to treat that. Don't have time to get into that. And then eating bone broth or drinking bone broth. The collagen in that bone broth, and you can buy not stock, but bone broth, and you'll see that now. You'll see it on shelves. I see it at Aldi all the time. It's inexpensive, and you just take this bone broth. I mean, you can buy it if you want to. Josh Axe, one of my friends, they have uh, Ancient Nutrition. They have some great leaky gut products. They have bone broth. That's how they really got going. And you can do that, but you don't have to do that. You can just get it right out of a carton and you just sip some more bone broth throughout the day, a glass or a day, and that's going to start to repair your leaky gut as well. And it typically takes about 3 months of being on the supplement, using the bone broth, cleaning up your diet. And one of the things I really encourage you to do is, really get off sugar. Sugar is an inflammatory, it creates a lot of inflammation in the gut. Really dramatically reduce your sugar, dramatically reduce your starches. If you need to lose weight, that may be something that's creating the leaky gut and problems with absorption and IBS. You need to lose weight. We got a program for that. You can do that with the slenderized drops that we have. Patients lose half a pound a day on that program, just taking those drops and eating a healthy diet. And be mindful. Be mindful when you eat. So really take time and be grateful, have some gratitude, however you want to do that. But slow down, just slow down a little bit. Let your body have the opportunity to be prepared to take this food that's going to nurture you and turn into the hormones and chemicals that we need to think clearly and to have less pain and get a good night's sleep and all the things that we want to be healthy. Give your body a minute to know, hey, I just really appreciate everything you're going to do with this healthy food that I'm about to ingest, and appreciate just having the opportunity to get healthier and healthier. I don't know what, I know it sounds silly, but it really does mean something. It really does mean something. The way you think definitely dictates how you feel and whether you're going to have a good day or a bad day. Now, what I want to do is wrap things up because I know I've left some stuff off, and I want to make sure that I answer your questions. This is something that you could easily turn around. You can turn around reflux. You can turn around irritable bowel with the Jumpstart supplements. Turn around quickly. There's no reason why you need to continue to have irritable bowel. Sorry, I don't really do that. I'm sorry, I don't do any. I don't do email certifications. Sorry, just not something I not do. So someone's asking, they have problems taking capsules and capsules and I see this. Some people have trouble with big capsules, or horse pills or tablets, but this she just has trouble with the capsules. And she's asking, do we have liquids and stuff that you can use? We do have a liquid multivitamin, But what I would share with you, the fibro formula, those capsules, open them up and just pour them in your food. You won't taste it or drink it. You can do that. The 5-HTP, same thing, pour it in water and take it at night. The digestive enzyme is a tablet, it's not a capsule. The adrenal cortex is a capsule. You can try to take that put it in food. You can also try just drinking in water, but you can open those capsules up, the Jumpstart products, except for the digestive enzyme, which is a tablet, because it's so strong. But it's small, it's not very large. That's what I would recommend. Just open up the capsules and pouring them in a liquid and take them that way. You certainly can do that. Gastroparesis, which is a slowdown where you're basically, GI doctors will say frozen, frozen digestion. Your body has really slowed down in its ability to digest and eliminate food. This can be brought on by certain medical conditions. Muscular dystrophy is one that just comes to my mind. MS sometimes, medications you're taking, and other things. It can be just out of the blue. It just happens. It's not a typical thing in fibromyalgia, but yes, I work with patients who have gastroparesis. And even with gastroparesis, one of the best things you can do is take a digestive enzyme. Now, for most people, gastroparesis, you're going to need to take capsules. So in your case, you're going to need to find a digestive enzyme. It's not going to be as strong, not going to be as good, but you can take a vegetarian digestive enzyme, open up the capsule, put it in water and take it and see if that helps you be able to have a more a quicker turnaround and having a bowel movement. So, but to answer your question, I've had numerous patients with gastroparesis, and I was able to get them to where they could take the supplements and things that I recommend. Okay. So magnesium is a natural blood relaxant. So I'm sorry, blood pressure relaxant it's a natural beta blocker. It's a natural calcium channel blocker. There we go. So in your cells, the cell membrane, just real nerd talk, but if you have a cell on the inside, you have calcium, and on the outside, magnesium. Actually, it's the other way around. But what I want you to realize is when you take large doses of magnesium, it blocks calcium from getting into the cell, which can drive up your blood pressure. Calcium is constricting, so it constricts blood vessels, which raises your blood pressure. Magnesium is relaxing. It relaxes your blood vessels and helps to bring blood pressure down. Can you dramatically lower your blood pressure taking magnesium? Unusual. Unusual. So I don't think there's a danger, but just be on the lookout. If you have high blood pressure, you're probably going to see your blood pressure come down a little bit, taking the magnesium that you need to take to help with your IBS. Okay, good question. Any other questions? I want to make sure we answer all questions. If not, then I'm going to wrap things up. I'm going to see if I'm going to, one more thing I'd like to do, just to point you in the right direction, as you can see some things I was talking about. There's some reports and some things that you can read. If you're like me, you like to read things and then take it in as much as seeing a visual. Let's see, how do I get there? Let me see. Okay, let's see. Give me just a second. Let me figure out how to. Let me get. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you can see my screen there. But if you go to yourfibrodoctor.com, that's my website. If you go up here to Patient Center, and then there's different things in here. No, not doing consults, but look at health condition articles. Okay. Now, once you go here, now you can scroll down, and guess what? There's an article on intestinal permeability. So you can read all about that, right? Here's the article on osteoporosis. osteopenia, osteoporosis, or osteonecrosis, uh, bone damage. So taking some of these medications can create some real problems. But you can see there's different ones. I mentioned earlier, what was the other one I mentioned? I mentioned brain function questionnaire to see if you're low in serotonin. So you can take a little quiz and we'll tell you if you're low or not. But that's the website. Now, the other thing you can go to is Patient Center. We can look at video archives. And here is the Jumpstart right here. So there's different things here you can read. See, there should be 4 Jumpstarts. I know they're on the store. Let me see if we go there, and it will go into detail about what I've been sharing with you. So if we go to the fibro, let's see, should be a Jumpstart. Yeah, it's here. It's here somewhere. So I'm gonna let you find it. I'll try to do a better job next time and show you. But there are videos on here that will, I wonder if it's here, that gives you these 4 Jumpstart. Now, when you buy, here we go. So that one goes just over this. So anyway, you'll find the videos when you go to the products. There they are. Okay. And you also get those videos. So if you order from us, this is the weight loss product right here. Typically, you lose half a pound to a pound a day on this with a healthy diet. Okay. But if you go to the website and you go to the health conditions, there are a lot of free resources that you can take advantage of. I mean, I'd love for you to buy my book and learn the protocols, and we have that available on the store, but there's also a lot of free stuff that you might want to check out. I know it will benefit you. If you're on here tonight and you're not getting my emails, you're not getting my online newsletter, I want to encourage you to go to yourfibrodoctor.com or to superhealthyhuman.com and download one of those free reports. There's one on there. I think it's on superhealthyhuman.com. There's a what's the best diet for you. And if you go there, you can click, you can get it. And I go over keto, paleo, carnivore, whole foods, plant-based, paleo, Mediterranean. And I give you the pros and cons of these different diets in this report. Great report. But there's ones on adrenal fatigue. There's all kind of different ones on there. But once you opt in, once you put your email in and you get the report, now you'll start receiving our emails, our weekly newsletter. And if anytime you want to not hear from us, you just click a button and you're done. But that once you get on the email list, you'll know about these talks. So I do these typically on Wednesday nights, but it can be different nights and sometimes even during the day, and even do master classes on the weekend. So if you're not on the email list, you're missing out on a lot of resources. That's what I wanted to share with you. All right, looks like I got a few more questions. Thanks, Alice. I appreciate you being on here. Thanks for your encouraging. Thank you. We don't do return on supplements. Once they're open, it's just like a medication. If you're taking gabapentin, it doesn't work, and it doesn't work 70% of the time. If you were to take that back to the pharmacy, they're not going to take that back. There's nothing to do with it. We just can't do that. We did that years ago, and some people took advantage of that. Most people are really good about that, but it was bad. Now you can return something if it's not open. So if you got something that's not open, then we have, I think it's 3 months, and you can send that back and we give you, full refund. But once it's open, there's just nothing we can do with it. We used to give away samples and do pro bono to people, and we still do that, but we can't do that. I'm sorry, I wish we could. But I will say this, which is really surprising, actually, and I'm doing this for 20 years. The supplements that are in the fibro pack, the fibro supplements, that 4 jumps, my fibro patients, they tolerate it, which is unusual because so many patients with fibromyalgia have sensitivities, chemical sensitivities. They can't take supplements. Sometimes they can't take certain medications or any medications, but the majority of people take these and have no problem whatsoever. If for whatever reason you start taking them, you have trouble, call the clinic. And my assistant, who's been with me for almost 20 years, she can tell you exactly what you need to fix that. No, we don't have single pills to be muscle tested, but you can take, it's not something that we have. I'm not down on muscle testing. I used to do kinesiology. Now I'm just more blood work really in functional medicine testing. There's certainly a place. That's an art. People are really good at it. Some people are better than others. But no, we don't give away samples to do muscle testing. Sorry. I'm not doing any telecons. I'm not doing consults right now, so I've retired from active patient care. So I'm not taking any new patients. For those of you who are asking, um, but I am going to continue to educate. 30 years in practice, 34 years, 20 plus years specializing in fibromyalgia, writing 2 books on the subject. One's in the 5th edition. I'm going to continue. This is my mission, but I've gotten to the point I just can't take any more patients. Okay, so I want to thank everybody. I'm going to wrap things up. Go to yourfibrodoctor.com. You can learn more about some of the things we talked about. You can get some free reports. I want to encourage you, if you're not using the Jumpstart protocols, start them, see how much progress you can make. Typically going to feel better, less pain. Start to sleep for the first time in a long time for many of you. Have less pain, more energy. You'll start to avoid fibro flares. You'll have more stamina, resiliency to stress. Your GI system will start to heal up. Symptoms that you've been dealing with for months or years start to go away within a couple of weeks. That's how quickly it starts to happen on the Jumpstart supplements. And you can read the testimonials and see for yourself about that. You can also go to Your Fibro Doctor. And one of the things at the patient resources, you'll see testimonials. Click on that. You can read all the testimonials. You can hear telephone interviews or video interviews. They're all on there. So you can have some more assurances that this works. It has worked for 20 years, continues to work. But if you don't do it, it doesn't work. And you can lump it with everything else that didn't work for you. But if you've not tried this, you're shortchanging yourself. So thank you so much. And I look forward to meeting some of you on another program. We'll probably do them on next Wednesday night. So if you're not on email us, make sure you're on there so you get notified when I'm going to be back on here. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful, healthy night.